All right. Welcome, everybody. Hey, while we're getting everybody in the room, um, drop a little note. Tell us where you're from. Tell us what you're up to. I love seeing people that I know, which is fantastic. Thank you all for coming here. Um, this is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a good, solid 40 minutes. And if anybody who knows me knows I am chatty, so 40 minutes will go by very quickly. um, so as we're getting everything started up, we're going to have a lot of fun interactivity. We want you guys to use the chat, talk to each other. We want people to use the poll, drop your questions in the Q&A. We have polls coming up. I've been writing nonsense for this for the last like 2-3 weeks. So who knows what's going to happen? One of the most beautiful things about today, which I just have to thank you all for coming here, like enjoying an entire day of speakers and listening to creative people, give advice, talk about their journey, complain a little bit. This has been an amazing event. I wanted to put on my BeMore shirt, but I thought, knowing that the topic is going to be why you love your career, I might as well wear one of the unfortunately, many shirts that I have that are all UX or design related. I wear them quite often, so it's kind of fun. So, start you guys off, right? I'm Joe Cahill. If you haven't booked time with me yet on ADPList or saw me on any of the other type of ADPList events, I am a experienced design manager at Uncork, which is a no-code company here in New York. But I've been doing design for 22 years. So the idea of talking about why I love this is so natural because I've been doing this for so long. A lot of people I met at the ADPList, they haven't been alive as long as I've been working, which is somewhat terrifying for me. And it shows my age, but I think it's fantastic. One of the most beautiful things about this field is being able to watch it evolve. And we're going to talk about that part of my journey. But right now, I am all in UX and in UI and product design, whatever we want to call it these days, and loving absolutely every minute of it. So we have some great poll questions. The first one I'm going to hit you up with right now. I want to know how long everybody has been in this field. I think it'll be fantastic to understand, what we got here, what kind of diverse crowd. We might have some veterans. We might have people like me. It's too long to count, but really want to know where you guys are standing right now. And this is going to be super interactive. So like I said, as you got questions, drop them in. I'm going to try to answer them as we go along. So me, right? I hate I hate talking about myself, but this is actually very fitting because this is my 22nd year in design, and tomorrow I actually turn 42 years old. So it is a lot of fun that goes on over this time. Wow, 50% less than a year. Holy shit, that's amazing. That's so cool. Like a lot of you are going to hear me say this quite often. This is going to be the most exciting part of your overall journey. When I started off as a graphic designer. I was artsy, I was creative, as you can see by the treasure trove of nonsense that goes on behind me, loving things that are different and expressive, and just overall, I'm going to use the word creative a lot, is amazing. I grew up being a comics person. I loved comics, I loved to draw comics, I loved to illustrate. And when I started to get into this field, and I went to college and I went to be an illustrator. And when I went on my interview to get in, the dean of students was like, listen, like, you're not an illustrator. And that is heartbreaking to hear for somebody who grew up drawing most of the characters, again, you see behind me. And that was, we can talk about this till the days go along. And I know there was a couple of sessions around imposter syndrome. That was like my first real instinct of professional imposter syndrome, being told I'm not an illustrator, and I'm a graphic designer. The reason why? He said I had too much personality to be an illustrator. I'm not going to lie. That's fair. That was a fair assessment. So once I started doing graphic design back in the late 90s, it was an amazing time because at the exact same moment, websites started popping up. They were very poorly created, very badly designed, but they were there. And for us, from a creative standpoint, as we're developing print ads and catalogs and business cards and identity, it's where does it start, right? Like, how do we bridge the two? How do we take what we're doing here and put it there and make it look good? And then there was the things that you guys are going to laugh because there's still technical aspects that, that happen. We built websites in basically like a cut up flat image and put them into tables and hope that was what it was going to look like on people's screens. It was a terrifying part of the experience because as we see even now, as we want to be creative, as we want to build really robust systems and be as creative with UI as we can, we hit that wall. We hit sometimes a tech wall. So that was something that always happened. And it's something as a designer we have to adapt to. We have to work with what we got. Even back at doing print design, if I wanted to print a catalog a certain way, I wanted to use a certain type of paper, I had to use the printer that I was having printed. Maybe his calibration was slightly off and the blacks have a little more blue color into it. And we have to adjust for that. It's the same thing. This is parallel pathing. So at that time, I had to learn how to code. And I'm going to answer the question now because I know it's going to come up. Do you need to know how to code to be a good designer? No. I coded purely out of necessity and because I'm a nerd and I need to know everything and I wanted to learn how the pieces work together. So that's why I learned how to code. So back in that early 2000s, we were really working hard to bridge the gap between levels of creativity. We still see it today how when you have social content and you want it to match the site that you're building, to match the app that you're launching, like how that ecosystem works together. As I was going through and we were developing what was the next path, it was primitive UX design because the question always came up. Like, who is this for? Like, how are they going to view it? When are they going to view it? But we didn't have that opportunity to kind of like have the research because the research was not something that people wanted to do. We had focus groups. Those were cool, but it's not always the thing. So it was, a lot of budgets always came into play. Still today, budgets always rule everything. But as that journey happened, it was like, it's always like, for me, it was always been a little pivot. I always refer to it as the evolution of design. Once the iPhone came out, it was, a whole new ball game. But there's a lot of people that I've met through the ADPList, like where they are career switchers or they use the pandemic to want to learn something new. I have another poll coming up. Like, what were you doing before this? Are you somebody who, out of all these juniors out of here, almost 50% of you are juniors? Like, what were you doing before? So we have, were you in a boot camp? Did you just decide to go into a boot camp straight from school? Were you converting from a different field? It's such an amazing part of everyone's journey to know where we're going. For me, like I said, it's a linear evolution. So as we talk about, why I love design, and this is going to be something you're probably not surprised. I talk about it with such energy and passion, and I get so amped up every time I get amped up because this job is so cool. You get to see evolution, like everybody who's starting now, like where is your evolution going to go? And this isn't even talking about the impact we make, right? This is literally talking about the skills that we have to create something. So when it comes to this career. Like somebody asked in the chat, what was UX design 20 years ago? Like it was very different, but still the same. Now we have more resources. We have companies that are, for lack of a better term, very supportive of UX. Some still don't understand. And this is a fight that we've been doing. Like when I was in creative back in the day, and we were the fun group. We were the ones that were in jeans and t-shirts in a corporate setting, and people were just like, don't mind them. They're creative. And that was our like get out of jail free card for wearing jeans, wearing flip-flops. I didn't care. But we had to fight. We had to get that seat at the table. Now we have CCOs. We're on the verge of having chief digital officers, chief experience officers, chief product officers, be that person at the seat at the table to always support us and always vouch for us. But until that becomes the commonplace, we're still going to always have to not validate our jobs, but we're going to have to always talk about it so people understand it. To be fair, I put this question out to you guys. It's the question I always get. How do you describe what you do? And it's my favorite question. I have all my friends who are designers. We always joke around whenever we're like out at a bar and we meet new people, because clearly we're shy. People go like, what do you do? I go, UX. And people go, I don't know what that means. And I'm like, my one friend, Sin Wong, also an ADPList mentor. She goes, we make everything work. It's not a lie, right? Like this is what we do. We're here. We're creating. We're bringing life to solving problems and bringing life to experiences that everybody needs. By the way, it is 9:00 at night in New York, so I just want to make sure everybody knows we are drinking. This is happy hour here. I am drinking pumpkin because why not? It is fall, officially fall tomorrow. But this is all part of like our overall experience, right? Enjoying life, enjoying what we do. Like, how do you not want to do this job? Like, even as you're starting out, you get to hear everything people are saying today. This is why I love the name of this event, the BeMore Festival. Because when you're a designer, when you're doing creative work, you're always going to want to do more. You're always going to want to be more. You're always going to want to evolve into something else. So this brings up another great poll question. What really excites you about this? Like, what made you take the switch? These are, as you can tell, I clearly wrote the questions. Making cool shit, right? Creating tools for people. Whenever I put an emphasis on anything, that I am serious about it. I am a New Yorker, so I use a lot of hand gestures. If you haven't guessed, I hope they're not too distracting for everybody. I use the claps to accentuate everything I say. But I think this is part of what gets us here, right? This is the first step. You choose to do something. And so far in my experience, not many people have chose this career just because it's there. This is something that's interesting to you. This is something that isn't like a fallback. This is something that you're passionate about. Like I'm waiting for these responses to come in. Perfect. It's exactly what I was hoping for. It's really all of it. Like all of these ones on their own are fantastic. We get to do something every day in our jobs, and we'll talk about job hunting too, don't worry. Do something every day that benefits somebody else. This whole platform is about giving. This whole platform is about people. It's about each other. It's about support. When you work at a company and you're working and building a product, that's what you're doing. You're creating something for someone. You're creating something to benefit someone. How fucking cool is that? Even back when we were doing print design and it was final, I knew if I was doing package design for something that's going into a Target, it needed to speak to a parent who's probably rummaging through there with kids in tow, and they're probably stressed out. And I need to make sure the information is clear, packaging is concise, they can grab it without thinking too much, because this is about making it easier for them. And of course, sales, because money. Without money, we don't have funding. So, but these are the thoughts, right? Like, this is how we do it. So we have to worry about every person that we're building for. And yeah, I know there's a lot of different personas. I just had a wonderful conversation with somebody that I met for ADPList mentoring. And she said, I'm working at a company and they said, our product's for everyone. And they want me to cater an experience for everyone. And I'm like, well, isn't that amazing? A product for everyone. Great. But you have to start somewhere. You have to find out who your core is, to figure out where you want to start, what group of people you want to start with, and then you can start expanding out, right? Because you can't focus on everybody at once. I equated it back to being at a party. You go see your friends. It's the holidays. You can't find the time to walk in and say hello to everybody at once. You got to spend a little time with each person. And then you can move on to the next one. And then maybe go back to them. That's how we should be doing it. We should be focusing on one thing, because I'm sure I'm somebody who doesn't have ADD, but I constantly get distracted, hence the stuff around me. So it always gives me something to look at. But how does that really translate? How do we really focus in on what we need to do? I love these questions. You guys are fantastic, by the way. Advice on finding a role. We're going to hit a lot of that. I love the idea of doing this for a long time, right? Like, I think this is something that when you get into it and you find jobs, right? To be fair, I'll never say be at a job for 20 years, be at a career for 20 years, be at a job, not so much. You have to jump around. You have to find your voice. You have to find where your next challenge is. And when we become professionals, right? When we take that first step and we look for our first job and we get out there and we have all the energy in the world. For anybody who is probably now going to my LinkedIn throughout this entire thing, my tagline says, leading teams with the excitement of my first day. It's a 100% accurate fact, because what all of you feel when you got your first job, or you're getting your first job, or you're getting down the line of interviewing, there's something there. There's a spark, there's a nervousness, there's an energy that you have that you need to bottle it. That excitement, that notion that your journey is beginning. That should be every time you start a new job. I'm not gonna lie. There's 100 times that I am nervous day one. Like, I could be doing this forever. And my first day, I'm like, what if they don't like me? What if I say something dumb? What if I curse too much? That's going to happen. But I want to make sure that they are, I don't want to go in and be disruptive, even though I am. But like, I have to be slightly nervous, right? Like, we're always going to end up being nervous. This is terrifying starting a new job. It's terrifying starting a career. But once you start going, and once you get over it, once you get over that 24 hours, you're set. There may be new things that get thrown at you. If anybody here knows, if you work in enterprise, acronyms will get thrown at you. And it's okay to say, what's that mean? Some people may look and be like, yeah, I didn't know what that meant, what that means either. Can you please let me know? That's sometimes it's just crazy like that. But that when you start doing that, when you start asking questions and you start pushing yourself and pushing the people around you and start churning that creativity that you have inside you. You know, for me, whenever I hire junior designers, 90% of the work you're going to be doing is production work. And the reason why is I want muscle memory. I want you guys to learn, you know, how pieces go together. You know, I hired at one point 3 designers, and each one had their own pace of how they grew. That's where leadership comes in. That's where when you decide to make the choice, I see your leadership. By the way, I love that you guys have these options. When we were starting out, it was management or bust, because that was the only way you moved up. Now you guys can be ICs, and it's awesome. But it's how you decide to grow with it. It's where your passion lies. You know, I had a session right before we did this tonight, and we were talking about what the focus might be for her career. And I asked just to be devil's advocate because I wanted to hear her response. And the truth is, there's no limit. You want to start off as a UX designer, working in a fintech, working in a startup? Cool. Does AI interest you? Find out how AI works. Does VR interest you? Find out how UX works in VR. You know, I have a very good friend that I met through ADPList. She's doing fashion in VR right now. And I am dumbfounded at the fucking shit she's making. It's so amazing. This creativity has no limit. You know, this is where this excitement comes in. This is where this excitement is always going to grow. You're going to have something to constantly add on to. I'm a full proponent of when you get a job, do freelance if you can manage the time correctly. Because what you do in your 9 to 5 is going to be awesome. It's going to be fun and you're going to love every minute of it. But there may be a mobile app you want to design. You may want to build something for voice with the devices that shall not be named because both of them are in the house and I don't need them both going off right now. You may want to dip into the metaverse, you know, and if you're at a job that doesn't do that, how are you going to do it? You learn, you know, and this is how you always expand your portfolio. You know, your portfolio, whole other fucking thing that we could talk about, is a living document of your career. Technically, yes, you should be dumping old stuff as you go along. I have a hard time getting rid of stuff. Again, no surprise. But I'm proud of it. Like, this is also a weird dichotomy we end up having as designers. We're told we're doing our work and not to get too emotionally attached to it. I 100% agree with that. Because when you're at work, you can't get upset about what somebody doesn't like, what somebody does like. You have to focus around what makes sense for the users, makes sense for the company, makes sense for the business, all those things. But deep down, like, you do love the work you do. I worked last year at an advertising agency here in New York. Loved every minute of it. One of the projects that I got to build there ended up having me meet my girlfriend. So that project will always have a special place in my heart because it brought something personal to me. You know, there's so many things that come around that you're always going to remember. I'll tell you one thing you're not going to remember. It's every job that you go out for and you don't get. Every canned response, thank you for applying. Those you're never going to remember. So in this journey, as you're enjoying what you're doing and you're looking for a job, don't ever dwell on those things. They suck, yes. They bust your self-esteem to the ground, yes. But in the bigger picture, like, what is it? It's just an email from a system that didn't even get a chance to get to know you. right? Took a little tangent there because I feel very passionately about the way we hire designers. So while all this goes on, and I said before, when you're doing this freelance work and you're being creative and being creative outside, time, always remember your time is worth everything. It's very easy to get overwhelmed. I see the question in the chat about it. And being overwhelmed with work, to be fair, you should never be overwhelmed with this work. This work should always be a joy. You can be overwhelmed with everything else in the world, but when it comes to here, this should be your safe space. Big Star Wars fan, this is like my Jedi temple for anybody who is with that. This is my place of peace. My office is my place of peace. I know, scary. But doing this work, it's like as a professional, as somebody who's been doing this 20 years, sometimes I'll still do production work because I just want to chill out and zone out and just let my mind just coast and be free and just design. When you start getting overwhelmed with stuff, always remember that this is your safe space. Don't ever let it not become your safe space. Anybody who knows me has heard this, my favorite phrase. For 22 years I've been doing design. I have loved every minute of it. I just hate people because people ruin everything. It's true. People in an office, people remotely, that's their stuff that they're bringing to you. That's not yours. And remember, our job is to lead with empathy. If somebody's not having a good day and they're taking it out on you, the only thing you can do that helps you survive is kill them with kindness. Because guess what? They can't be mad at you being happy. That's something that I think is very difficult for people, is when they're stressed out, they take it out on other people versus how, you really shouldn't. This job shouldn't be stressful. This is super fun. This is interesting. I love that our jobs can be so dynamic that if you're in UX and you work at a certain company, the work will be smart work. It's not necessarily going to be like sexy Spotify, making visualizations of fucking things move on a page. It could just be internal tools and charts. And that's still the level of thought you have to put into it. How somebody's going to spend their day in an office working on this tool. Like, that's smart work. Again, for someone, benefiting someone. As we use Figma, that's a product. Like, we as designers and as, UX people and UI people and everything else, like, we should be looking at the tools that we're using every day. Like, when this whole AirMeet thing popped up, when I did the walkthrough on Monday, so fucking amped to fucking see how this works. First thing I did was set up my profile because I wanted to make sure my photo was tight and my social stuff was there. But I was so intrigued right away. And the beautiful thing about this was I got an email from somebody who works there saying, can we get your feedback on what your experience is? So me as a UX researcher inside of me, I was like, oh shit, hell yeah, you're going to get some information from me. Like, this is the cool stuff we get to do. Like, I love the overall outrage people have when a social media platform moves everything around and they don't understand the work that goes on behind it. My favorite example was during the pandemic when Instagram moved the likes and the shopping button. People lost their shit, like the world was over, even though it was already over. It's like, why are you worrying about this? This is all stuff that people sat back and thought through. This was not a one-day choice of like, nope, moving the button tomorrow. There's research involved. And I love telling people about that because that's how they understand what we do. They need to understand that every product that they use every day has some sort of UX person behind it making decisions, hopefully. Thinking things through, doing research, talking to somebody. Even doing creative work, like if you're picking colors or you're trying to figure out style or photography, God, like, how exciting it is to get good photos or do a shoot. Like, this is all the things that you get to see. Like, these are all the things you get to chime in on. It's I once hired a designer that was that is a photographer. I loved all the work that went on around it, but guess what? We had an instance where I needed an actual eye, a photographic eye for a part of the project for the brand, and I said, "Hey, do you mind going to do that?" And she was like, "Oh, hell yeah!" She was all into it because it was part of her overall passion. That's why I love the you guys' portfolios. Now I want to talk about portfolios. We got 10 minutes, and I think I can get that in too. So when you put together your portfolios and you start writing your content and you start creating, like, this should be you. This is one of the fields you are in where being yourself is the most important thing. I want to know who you are from the moment that I see it. I want to come to your site and get a sense of who you are. If you're somebody who's a UX person and you're an illustrator, fucking drop those illustrations in. Like, bring your passion, bring your excitement to the table. Right? Like, how it's so amazing to see all of this happen, like, live when I'm on a site. I had more poll questions, but I think I actually bypassed where I wanted to talk about. No surprise. This is the fluidity of this work. And this goes into a whole other aspect of our job. We get to be storytellers. It doesn't matter what part of design you're in, what part of product you're in, you get to tell a story. If it's to a product person, to marketing, to anyone, you get to immerse them in it. When you pitch work, you get to immerse a client in it. It's this, your passion. And again, this used to be a negative. In the start of my career, I had to hear, we really like you, but you're very passionate about your job. And it's a little much. And I'm like, that's a bad thing? Like, this passion, this excitement is what gets the things going, right? Like, this is what we all do. Fuck, like, if I had no passion, what would I be like? I would just be sitting at a computer mindless and not caring. But we have to. It's the way we're building tools, the way we're building everything. We need everybody's input. We need the teams to be who they are. Because I'm just one person. I'm a New Yorker who's 41 and 7/8 old. I have one perspective. This is why I hire junior designers too, because you guys have a fresh perspective of where this industry is going. You guys have a fresh perspective of where everything is going to be, what's everything going to be moving towards. I'm on every freaking social media channel because I want to know how the UX is. I want to know how people are interacting with it. I'm on BeReal. No reason I should be on BeReal. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Taking a selfie and a photo in front of me. But guess what? I love the countdown. I love the fact that it has all these little UX things in. These are the things that we really, really we have to constantly keep an eye on. This whole industry is your playground. Every little piece of it. And don't let anybody tell you that this is, you can only be one part of it. Don't let anybody tell you that that you don't belong here. The one thing you guys have benefiting you is a community. This whole fucking thing today proves that this community is it. When I started, we didn't have this. We were all against each other. Like, designers would not support each other. This is a totally different world. This is a world where you guys come in and you're part of a family. We're all family right now. Like, this is it. I'm the weird uncle that curses too much and just comes in and has a couple beers and then disappears at the end of the night. This is who we all have, this community to support. As you guys grow in the industry, you guys become mentors. Even if you're like 2 or 3 years in, you could always mentor people on what that 0 to 1 or 0 to 2 year span is. Like, this is an entire platform called of paying it forward. And we're doing it because we love this. We want you to love this, and we want you to always feel supported. Like, I promised myself I wasn't going to cry. There's a question in here about staying on top of changing design trends and strategies. And this is, there's always stuff to look at. This is the coolest thing, right? Like, this also, I obviously, throughout this entire thing, everything's the best, everything's the coolest, everything's my favorite part. It's just how it is. There's so much information out there. There's so much. Back in the day, we would have trade magazines, right? Magazines about design, and you just thumb through them. Any app you download, any Medium article you read, remember, Medium articles are written by real people. Take them with a grain of salt, but there's still information. Following what goes on. We are an entire industry that our ear needs to be to the ground and just listening to what's going to happen next. And also cataloging all of your information. Like, again, ask these questions. If I have a junior designer or a regular designer with me, and we're in a meeting and I say something, I want them to say, like, hey, what made you do that? What made you say that? You guys are on a learning trajectory. We all are. And it never stops. And this is fucking exciting. Right? Like, how do you not get excited about that? And always remember, when you go for jobs and you tell a hiring manager, I'm here to continue to grow. I'm here to continue to learn. We know you're not experts. We know none of us are experts. We're only as experts as we get, right? We can always learn more. My biggest thing was learning research and being like really good at research in the last 2 years. I had a wonderful boss at the ad agency I worked at, most supportive human being in the world. I told her I want to get better at research. She pushed me to be better at research. There's only one way we always get better, right? Is if we just keep doing. I'm a big sports person. Obviously, there's a lot of Met stuff behind me. Baseball players have good and bad days. Maybe you'll go 0 for 4. Maybe you'll go 4 for 4. Maybe you go 1 for 3. Who fucking knows? But you never stop. You always go out there. You keep going. You keep trying. This is, read the things that go on around you. Ask questions. Just join people. Go to meetups, because meetups are back to be a thing. Go meet people in the real world. I love it. Like, this is fantastic, because I don't know how many freaking people a year, where everybody's from the ADPList. I've mentored people in 27 countries in the last 2 years. Insane. But I'm going to leave you guys with a couple of thoughts. I have 45 seconds, a couple of thoughts. The main one is be easy with yourself. This is a journey. This is your growth. Don't go crazy with yourself. This is, you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to get every job. You're going to have dry spells. You might have designer's block. It's okay. It happens to all of us. You may have imposter syndrome. Fuck imposter syndrome. Right? Like, it happens and then it's gone. Like, I want you guys to always know that we're here to support you and we're all in it together. So we got 6 seconds. Thank you. You guys are amazing. And I hope you enjoy the rest. And I guess we're still going. It didn't just cut me right off, which is awesome. Last poll. I want to know what you guys thought about it. Fuck yeah, that's me. I'm just awkward as shit as things go on. Please tell us how you did. please connect with me. Enjoy the rest of the 24 hours that we have going on here. Absorb as much information as possible. Sir, are you okay? Thank you for all the people that are concerned. I am fine, and this is just, it's a gift. That's all I can say. I hope you guys just enjoy this 20 years from now as much as I will, because I'll still be working. Don't tell anybody. But you guys are all so amazing, and I hope you guys just enjoy this. Oh yeah, be the sponge. Yeah, throughout life. So that's just a perfect life lesson that anybody could take. Books for anybody else. Go look for people with book lists. There's tons of books out there. I'm constantly reading, and I think we're finally getting the high sign that they're telling me to shut up. So again, have a wonderful day, evening, night. I'll see you on the internets, and thank you again.